Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I wanted to start off by asking, like, what has been your gymnastics journey? Like, when did you start? Did you do it as a kid? And what made you decide to continue now as an adult?
So I done some form of gymnastics for as long as I could remember. I did a youth programs uh, from toddler age to 12. And then when I started junior high school, there's a girl in my class who went to the YMCA, and she was pretty serious about her training and said, "Why don't you come with me for a workout?" And that's when I really started training seriously. Um, and from there, I went, level 10 nationals as a kid. I really wanted to be an elite gymnast. I told people I'd do gymnastics forever. I did qualify as an elite in my 20s. I had stayed and went to a local college just so I could continue training at that level. And then I got pregnant at 28 with my first child and kind of thought, well, I'm going to be done with gymnastics. I did a little bit while I was pregnant, but kind of had settled in on the idea that, that was it. I mean, who does gymnastics after having a baby? I'm coaching too during that time. And then I had my child and developed serious HELP syndrome. And I just needed a way to get better health-wise. So, there I am coaching at the Y, and we said, well, okay, let's, start with some push-ups and a little, jog down the vault runway. And that led to a cartwheel and a kip and a handstand. And, oh, there's the tumble track. Maybe I'll try a round off back handspring now. Before long, I was competing again, and I realized that you don't have to give it up after having a child. I mean, you have different responsibilities. And clearly my goal wasn't to make a national team or, win any championships at that moment in time. My family was much more important to me during that period, and now, of course. It just gave me a part of me back, I guess. And also, it was just a way to get healthy and keep myself healthy. A lot of people just go to a weight room. I go to the gymnastics center.
Can you go back and when you said that you stayed in order to go to a local college, so did you compete as an you didn't compete as a college like NCAA gymnast?
No, I was offered 4 scholarships to different universities, but back then, college gymnastics was nothing like it is now. I mean, now these athletes are really amazing. And it seems some of them are just continuing to improve, Back then, I don't know how they do it now with the hours, but they really limited hours. You weren't allowed to do your Chenkos because they were considered very, very dangerous. I had learned your Chenko when the safety zone didn't even exist on a horse, So it was just a lot different. And I really wanted to be an elite gymnast. So I took an academic scholarship to Queens College, which was only a mile from my house. And I got a degree in anthropology there while training 40 hours, whatever I could get in the gym at the YMCA near my house where I had always trained.
How many other people like you stayed around to do that? I'm curious.
Back then, I didn't know anybody and everybody thought I was nuts. The coach, he's not there anymore, but of one of the schools that I was looking to go to, I went on a recruiting trip and I told him that what my plans were. I hadn't qualified into the elite program, so I did need to pursue college options at that moment when I was senior in high school. And he flat out told me, he said, "Do you really think that you're going to improve at this age?" I mean, I was 17. I was like, well, I'd like to think I'm going to improve at this age. What's the point of doing gymnastics? Needless to say, if I had not qualified to the elite program, I wasn't choosing that school to begin with after that comment. But yeah, I had judges tell me that, this is crazy. My parents thought I was a little nuts, and they really only agreed because they still didn't pay for college since I had an academic scholarship. But I guess I had the support of my teammates and my coach, and my family supported me, but they did think I was nuts. And I didn't do it to prove people wrong, but I think I opened up a lot of people's eyes as to the fact that you don't have to be done when you're a senior in high school.
Yeah. So, around when did you end up, like, how old were you when you ended up qualifying to elite?
So I qualified to participate in the elite zone meets when I was a senior in high school at level 10 regionals, which that allowed me to make the decision to stay home. And then in the middle of my sophomore year of college, so I was about 20, was when I actually competed at my first elite national meet. And that's when you're considered elite. So that was age 20 is officially when I became an elite.
Wow, that's amazing for you to be just, it sounds like just one of the only ones where you were to do that and to follow that path, which isn't really, like you said, a lot of people around you were telling you that you were crazy and
yeah,
shouldn't do it. But you said you had the support of your coach, so that was kind of really all you needed, somebody to walk you through like the technical of that.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you mentioned HELP syndrome. What is that exactly, and how does that affect somebody?
So the doctors don't understand it 100%. They think it's some form of preeclampsia, and some people develop it before pregnancy. Before delivery. But a lot of people have no symptoms whatsoever, and then after pregnancy, all these crazy things appear. Basically, your blood pressure goes very, very high. Your blood stops clotting. Your kidneys stop functioning. Your liver shuts down. I actually weighed more after pregnancy from all the edema than I did before. After delivery than before delivery. And I had a wonderful pregnancy. I would have never thought that I had any kind of issue that was going to arise when I went in to have the baby. I can't really remember much. I know I had to have an emergency C-section. They put me to sleep because the baby's heart rate was dropping. And then I vaguely remember waking up in the ICU. I didn't see my little girl for a bunch of days. I had to be transferred to another hospital to get better care. It was a good 10 to 14 days in the hospital. And then they finally did send me home. And they really said the only reason they think that I recovered is because I was in such good health going into it. And I'm fortunate I have no lingering symptoms where many people do still have issues with their kidneys or liver. The pressure from the blood pressure being so high also causes you to have, what they call the blindness. You can see light and a person would come in, but you could only see like an outline. You really couldn't see features of things. So I don't have any eye issues either, which I'm very thankful for. And my daughter also has no issues from the problem.
Wow. Well, that's great. And it sounds like you said you were in such good physical shape because of gymnastics that really helped you. How did that possibly affect your emotional or mental state about working out? Because went through this kind of life-threatening condition, and you said that you didn't have any lingering effects after, but how soon after did you decide, okay, I need to get active again, and decide that gymnastics is the way you're going? Do you have any doubts about whether or not you should even do anything?
When I was at the hospital, and I was finally lucid enough to be aware of what was going on, working out was not even a thought in my mind. It was just, okay, how are we going to get out of the hospital? Is this really ever going to end? But I remember so well the first day we left the hospital. We lived in Queens in New York City. And of course, there's never any parking. So my husband had to drop me off in front of the house and then go find a parking spot. and I took the baby with the little carrier that you have in the car with the car seat. And I could barely walk from the car to our door, like carrying her. I mean, she was 5 pounds and the car seat's like maybe 5 pounds. I mean, you know, and I remember having to put her down and rest and thinking, oh my, how am I ever going to be, you know, a functioning human being again? How am I going to be a mom? I can't even pick up my kid in her car seat. And that just kind of made me feel like, boy, we really need to, you know, get going and get myself healthy. The doctor made me wait 6 weeks from delivery before he said I could go do anything. And, you know, we started at a weight room because it's something we always did in our life. But I was coaching too. I was kind of like, boy, maybe I can just, you know, try a little jump here and a little swing here. And it was never really a decision like, okay, we're going to start training now. It was just really, you know, let's work out a little bit. It's more fun than lifting weights, you know, just to get better. And then a few months later, I was doing some gymnastics. I actually competed at USA IGC Nationals 6 months after having my daughter Maribel in the premier division. So I guess it was kind of quick. It seemed like it was a very long time, but it was pretty quick getting back into things.
And you've just been doing gymnastics ever since?
Yes, I did take another break for another child. And we made a move from New York to Pennsylvania. It took us about a year to build our gym. And unfortunately, I had a knee surgery and a shoulder surgery in there, you know, take some breaks there, but never a break because I couldn't or didn't want to do gymnastics, like just moments in time where I needed a pause, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So, and then you didn't have any issues with HELLP syndrome with your second child?
No, I was considered high risk, and they made me see an unbelievable amount of doctors during that 9 months. But no, thank goodness, we had no problems. I was in there for my normal 3 days and back home. And when I hit that 6-week mark, I was just back in the gym again.
Oh, wow. Wow. So what does your life in terms of gymnastics look like now? You mentioned that you're a gym owner too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I homeschool my kids every morning, and then my oldest is trying to enter the elite program. So we go in about 1 o'clock, and I train with her. And we have a small group of homeschool kids who are also trying to, you know, do some higher level gymnastics. They're 9s and 10s right now. We all train together till about 5 o'clock when the regular after school program comes. I coach the up and coming team with my husband. And then 7 or 8 o'clock, depending on when everybody leaves, I get another hour or so in. And then we go home, I get the kids to bed, and we start all over the next day.
How many, you may have just mentioned this, so I'm sorry if I didn't, but if I missed it, like, so how many days are you, how many hours per week are you like training? And how does it compare in terms of like time on the equipment and time spent conditioning? And do you have to do a lot of conditioning, being that you are a former, that's probably a silly question, but just, you know, maybe there's an exception.
No, I wish I could do more conditioning because it would probably help me a lot. But there's always a time limit. You know, I'll get in the gym about 1:15, 1:30, and, you know, first I have to answer phone calls, and, you know, if someone left a mess, clean it up. So I'm always scrambling to get on the equipment as best I can. I usually get at least 2 hours in the morning. Sometimes I'll get 3. I call it morning, but it's really afternoon. You know, right now I'm mostly on bars because I have I don't know, like a performance issue going on. So we're just taking some time off tumbling and vaulting. So it's pretty easy to get what I need done. But when I'm doing all around, it is always a scramble to get things done. And I try to do conditioning in between turns as opposed to separating a time from it. The evening workouts are hit or miss depending on, you know, if I get called over with parents or if I'm just too exhausted because I'm an old lady from the day. You know, I'd say I'm anywhere between 10 and 15 hours a week now. And when I was a kid, and the only obligation I had was school, it was more like 40 hours a week. Even when my first child was born and, she was just a baby, she'd come to the gym with us and I could still get that training done. But now I homeschool and I'm running the gym. It is a big challenge to get everything done. And sometimes it's frustrating because I have a type A personality and, I just want to do everything to the best of my ability. And when I look at my gymnastics, I sometimes feel like, boy, this is not, what I could do. But then I look at my children and my family and I see that that's much more important. And I say, well, I'm getting done what I need to do and want to do on that end of my life. And it's always going to come first, so there's just a different balance, I guess.
Do you have adult gymnastics programming at your gym?
I don't have an official adult program, but we do have a handful of parents who were interested in coaching, and they work out. We took them a few years ago to AAU regionals. And now I have a new group of coaches who are working out, and I'm encouraging them to do AAU nationals. I think this year they're going to watch because their kids are in it, and they're going to see that they could do it next year.
How do you? Well, I think that's amazing. I think the more gym owners there are who are actually doing gymnastics, I don't even know. I think that gives you a perspective on adult gymnastics that most wouldn't have. Has anybody? Do you have any plans to expand the programming, or is it really just like for now that's meeting the needs of what the want to do?
I think we're a very small community, and for now, I think that's meeting most of the needs. The hardest part right now with starting an adult program is who would coach it, because all my adults, including myself, want to work out. So to assign someone to be a coach is a challenge. But my husband and I, we talk about it, how we're expanding our program in general for the kids and the adults. But we do kind of feel, not that gymnastics is only a child sport, but we want the adults that are in our program to also be giving back to the kids. We kind of feel that's important. So that's kind of why we have it set up the way we do. If most of our parents who are coaches, they were interested in also training. And we said, okay, well, let's teach you to coach. And we needed that because when we opened, there had never been gymnastics in a good hour and 40-minute radius of us. So we didn't have a lot of coaches to draw on. We just had to make them ourselves. So it was kind of a nice little deal to say, if you learn to coach, we'll also teach you gymnastics. And they were really happy with that deal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. So you said your oldest is an elite right now?
She's not qualified elite, but she's been to some of the elite qualifiers. She's come close, but hasn't put it all together yet.
Are you her coach, or is your husband her coach, or both?
My husband does 99% of her gymnastics coaching, and I do 99% of her schooling. This way she always has someone to run to when she's unhappy with us on either end of it.
How has having a daughter who's an elite and you're still training, like, I wonder, how does that, like, does the one affect the other in any way?
Not really. We're really good at working together. Up until more recently, she was a lower level. She probably didn't even think about what I was doing, being younger. I think now she kind of likes if she does a skill that I can't do. She comes to tell me about it. But I'm just happy for her. I mean, if she really wants to pursue her goals, she has to get a whole lot better than I ever was to go be successful. So, every time she does that, it just makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the final thing I want to just ask you about is based on everything, your unique path, I mean, you stayed to go to a local college so you could become an elite, and then you did it, and then you continued into your 20s, and had a very serious health issue, which I'm sure put a lot of things into perspective for you. I guess I'm just wondering, like, I'm trying to, now I'm like, was that the question I wanted to ask? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about? I wanted to make sure we cover everything that, like anything in the adult gymnastics community, the Facebook group that you have any strong opinions about one way or the other?
I love to see adults doing gymnastics. My favorite meet of the year right now is the AAU national meet, where they make a session of just adults. Although I always get the letters wrong. I think it's NAIGC. Is that the one? I've never participated in that one because their national meet always falls when our level 9 or 10 national meet could be, or maybe it's regionals. It always just falls where I'm going to be obligated as a coach to take kids to an event. So I've never even pursued that league, and I hear it's great. But I love getting together with all these adults at AAU nationals, and people, some are like me who did it as a kid and just never stopped, or did it as a kid and stopped and then did it again, or others just, they're doing gymnastics and they started when they were 40, and every story is so amazing to hear. And it's just so wonderful to see people enjoying themselves in a fabulous sport. I would love to see this sport grow into something that kids could look forward to in their adult years. Not only recreationally, where it is now, but professionally. I think it's really a shame that kids can enter pretty much any other sport and feel like not only would they go to the Olympics, which is wonderful, but they could have a career in the sport that they love. These little league baseball players, soccer players, track stars, they can all one day dream about making a living doing their sport, and gymnasts can't. And I think that that's very unfortunate. And I would love to see that become something. And not to say that the recreational end of it isn't wonderful, because there's recreation of every other sport as well. Because of course, it's only a small percentage that go into that professional field. But to not have that, I think, is very unfortunate in our sport.
Do you have any thoughts on what could get us closer to that? Like, as somebody who's a formerly and training gym owner, I'm curious if you.
My husband did a lot of work on a plan for that. To make something where we would have to kind of get away from the individual. If you look at most sports like football, you don't root for one person, you root for a team. To make different teams in big cities where they compete with each other. I don't know how exactly it would work, but I think it would be fabulous if you could go and, win bars at, the professional meet and get paid for it. I mean, I think a lot of athletes, the college athletes are much fitter, much healthier now. They're coming out of this sport not broken like they did in my years. But they have no avenue to continue training those hours and putting that time and intensity, because they need a full-time job, but I bet people would pursue it if that was their full-time job.
So based on like the plan that your husband put together, do you think it starts with adults where they can putting teams together, and it not from like somewhere on the grassroots level, because it was the top kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at every other professional league, it tends to be adults. I think that football requires 1 year of college before they can be drafted. I know my husband wrote all this up, so I don't know it so clearly, but he's really into football too. So he kind of looked at how football developed, and he modeled a program after that. I don't know if it would ever come through and someone would take a look at what he wrote and do it, but it would really just be amazing. He had kind of like you have your two teams, they'd all be dual meets, and team A would send up one gymnast and they get a score, and then team B could decide who they want to send up, who they feel could beat that person. So if they got a higher score, team B would get a point. So it wouldn't just be adding up your scores, you'd end up getting points based on if you beat each person. And he did for the finances, he did a profit sharing model where everything collected from the spectator entrance would be divided up percentage wise by the athletes, so that sponsorships from these companies wouldn't be necessary, because you always end up losing sponsors and stuff like that. I don't know, I'm just putting out a lot of nonsense, but he's got the plan in his head. Maybe one day he'll be not so involved in all the crazy things we're doing and put that together.
I love it. I love it. I think you should just put it out there now. Think about it. That sounds professional league for gymnastics in the US, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, Europe has something similar, like their athletes do get paid for some of their events. But I don't know how the ins and outs of how it works.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it works either. I'm not sure much of what happens outside the US is transferable. I just think that can have like universal health care. So
yeah, that would be nice too.
Do you have any we talk a lot in the adult gymnastics community about gyms not, like, some gyms saying that they can't insure adults and some can. Is there something in the insurance plan at your gym where like, does it cover the coaches and thereby like coaches that are also learning, like it covers that?
Yeah, we do pay a little extra to have a handful of adults, but they're also covered through workers' compensation when they are working for us on payroll. I think gyms in general are probably just worried about being sued. And I mean, I don't study statistics on this issue, but maybe statistics show that adult athletes who hurt themselves sue more than when their children get hurt. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that that's a concern. AAU also helps with the medical coverage for the adult athletes, but not the coverage for being sued. So there's like a gray line where everything falls. Yeah, I do think that is an issue. Keeping adults healthy. I know even from myself as a well-trained athlete, I can't take the same falls I did when I was a kid. I don't even think I could take a fall. Like just much more fragile now than when I was younger. And so I think they just want to keep everybody safe. Or maybe that's where they're thinking.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Liz, thank you so much for joining me today. Are you on Instagram or anywhere where people can follow you?
I'm not on Instagram, but I have a Facebook page.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That under your Liz Albert is your married name, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And it's your personal page or like a?
Yeah, that's my personal page, and then I also have our gym pages, Endless Mountains Gymnastics.
Okay, where is that based?
Wyalusing, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It's just a small town in the middle of nowhere.
Awesome. Liz, I think your story is just amazing. The fact that in a time when, most people would choose just to go on to a college career automatically. And I think that's great. But you knew what you wanted. You wanted to be an elite, and then you made it happen, even though it sounds like very few people believed in you, but you believed in you. And then here you are today, still training and competing. That's great.
Thank you.